Welcome to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tattooing Network.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Your source for the latest Legion news, opinion, and analysis.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
John Archiquette.
Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
Matt Turner.
I'm not afraid.
And Joshua Gray.
You will be.
What's going on, Outriders? John, Josh, and Matt back at you again with your Legion Outrider podcast. What's going on, guys?
We're outriding.
Oh, you're
on a podcast.
Wait, if you're outriding, how are you here?
It's more of a state of being as opposed to an actual physical location.
How did
outriding
Luke
is in your heart,
Skywalker
sir.
talk to Kylo Ren on Crate?
Oh
That's how I'm here.
Does you both know astral
Are
projection?
you gonna die?
Why are you sounding so hopeful,
I mean,
Matt?
are you going to die?
No, because I am much younger than Luke Skywalker
stronger
was.
in the Force, I'm sure.
And I haven't been drinking green milk fresh from the sea cow
Good
thing.
for what ails.
And he's obviously a Sith Lord, so he's
right.
It's a power that he did not learn from.
My
the Jedi.
passion is my strength.
Anyway, guys,
Feel the strength of your passion.
My chains are broken and stuff.
Is it what?
It's the Sith code.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The three words of it that I remember from playing Knights of the Old Republic.
I thought
when
you were
had
going
to,
all
like,
Rihanna
recite it.
with me, on some different level stuff. Never mind. SM?
Hey, Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars, guys.
And through your paddles alone, I gain power.
So we got, a balance to the Force this week. We got some good news, some bad news, some people joining the Star Wars universe, some people leaving it, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, we got a pretty interesting bit of information from our friend LJ over at Tabletop Simulator,
Well, the leagues. And
the
leagues. Well, it didn't come from LJ.
Yeah.
It came from Orchimedes, different guy.
Okay.
If you're familiar on Discord, but yeah. So
some interesting information about
Interesting
how
information.
the game has kind of changed since the FAQ dropped.
Yep.
And we're interested to find out exactly what those numbers indicate. Plus, we're going to talk about Melee now because, with Melee being a bigger portion of the game, with the Royal Guard out and Wookiees coming out soon, we're going to try to we'll talk a little bit about our experience with it so far and how to game plan around that. But first, Star Wars news. Matt, what do we got?
Well, we think we have the full cast list now for The Mandalorian.
Woohoo!
Is that correct?
Yes.
And we now know that... hey, you stole my notes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pedro?
Pedro
Pedro
Pascal.
Pascal.
Yes.
Pablo Picasso.
Yes, he is going to be The Mandalorian.
But we knew this.
We kind of knew
that was
that.
kind of
Well, we
that's
figured.
yeah.
He was the first big name that kind of
Yeah.
announced, but now it is official. He will be the titular character. Yeah, funny word.
We're all adults.
Yes.
The titular is a funny word, though.
So that's exciting. But there were some other people that
Yeah,
you were
man.
throwing
We
out, Josh.
got Carl Weathers, who's still kicking strong.
No kidding. Wow.
Apollo Creed, yeah.
And Chubbs.
And Chubbs, I wonder if he's going to get his hand cut off in this one, too.
And what was his character's name in Predator?
Oh, I don't remember.
All
I
right.
have no idea.
Best Carl Weathers role.
Sure.
Which
Oh,
one?
yeah.
Right.
Predator?
Yeah, he was
Question.
Arrested
Predator?
Development.
That was what I was going to go with. Like I say, what is your favorite Carl Weathers role?
As Carl Weathers.
Chubbs,
Chubbs?
I guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
I got to go with the Arrested Development Carl
Yeah.
Weathers.
That was pretty awesome.
I'm gonna go with the Office Space answer and say I celebrate his entire catalog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good. Okay,
Good answer.
I'll accept that.
And also Giancarlo Esposito, who was Gus Fring in Breaking Bad, is going to be. That was a new. Both of those were new ads. I hadn't seen anything about either of those.
I heard
but
he was going to be a new protocol droid.
No,
Oh.
no.
I would laugh if he reprised his same character from
That would be
Breaking Bad.
awesome. I would be okay with that. He's a spice dealer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. I
That
love
would be
it.
kinda funny.
Yeah, right? It's like, all right, that thing you did in Breaking Bad, just do more of that.
And hopefully they get half his face fixed,
Right.
Little repair.
He owns an Ewok. He owns like a chain of Ewok calf establishments. There you go.
That sounds delightful.
They also announced where the setting was going to be, or we knew it was going to be the Outer Rim.
Right.
The timeline.
Yeah,
for
but
it.
timeline-wise, it's going to fall in between Return of the Jedi. I think it was supposed to be like 5 years after Return of the Jedi. and then of course before The Force Awakens. So.
Yeah.
That might be really cool because it might really start uncovering some of that
that lost lore,
that time frame,
yeah,
and
lost time
and
frame.
if you're thinking about bounty hunters and stuff like that, that assumed lawless period. You got the New Republic, and then the Empire's fallen, and what happens in the Outer Rim as the Empire consolidates, and then the New Republic tries to fill the vacuum. Yeah, it's kind of a neat time to be exploring.
Is he Boba Fett?
Don't think so.
But he could be.
He could also not be.
That's true.
Yeah, because with the retconning of most of the EU, we don't really know what happened with Boba Fett.
No.
I guess, yeah, and it's the Mandalorian, not a Mandalorian. I mean, when you think of Mandalorians, Boba Fett is the Mandalorian, right?
Is that like the Predator as opposed to
a Predator?
A Predator or the Predator?
Why don't you have a seat right here? Anyway.
Sounds like something a Predator would say.
Only when you catch them.
Oh.
Thanks, Chris Matthews. All right, so we know
Chris
about that.
Hansen, by the way.
Chris Hansen.
Yeah.
Not Chris Matthews.
Wow.
That's hardball.
Wow. Oh.
Come on, man.
It's like, this is a reference I don't get.
For somebody as politically engaged as you are.
I would immediately Chris Matthews. I don't watch a lot of To Catch a Predator.
But why not? It's fun.
I didn't get my royalties from last time I was on it. Okay.
So a lot of episode 9 rumors coming, and I am avoiding all of them as much as possible. However, there was one snippet I thought was pretty interesting, and that Mark Hamill says that most of his scenes haven't been shot yet.
Oh.
So he was talking about like script control and trying to not leak too many spoilers, but
or that's because he has none.
why you got to be like this, Josh?
It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim.
Wow.
Yeah.
The rumors I've heard about his character in episode 9 have got me super excited. So,
does he play Cockknocker? Because that would be awesome.
He's the Jedi Master. Yeah.
I like how Matt goes from, I try to avoid rumors, but here's some rumor.
Yeah. I mean, so, well, okay. Yeah, that's fair. But Mark Hamill, that's my man.
Hey, you know what? I'm all for some more Mark Hamill in our movies.
But other than that, there's not a whole lot going on out there in the Star Wars verse. There was a picture leaked out from Edge of the Galaxy from Disney though, that just I remembered. It had a nice shot of the Millennium Falcon and the Star Wars Edge. Looks pretty cool.
Cool.
I'm excited for it.
So we got the good news, the additions to the Star Wars universe, and now we're going to, I guess, break the news of somebody we've lost. Zach Rayburn. Zach Rayburn.
Okay. So for Fantasy Flight, yes, the head of OP over at FFG, our first interview for the show, way back in the early days.
Yeah, when you went to Gamma.
Yeah. Too bad. Zach's a good guy. It's going to be.
We should clarify. He resigned. He didn't.
Yeah,
die.
man. Yeah,
he's not
dead.
Dead. He's moving on to greener pastures. I mean, you say, he's resigned.
Again, that still sounds
well,
like
yeah. But I mean, we got to clarify that
he's in a
not,
better place.
He wasn't fired. He wasn't kicked out of FFG. He wasn't invited to leave.
He's living with a nice family on a farm somewhere in the
Upstate,
country.
Yeah, he's able to run free.
Well.
No, apparently, according to Zach's, he put quite a lengthy post up on Facebook about, his experience and the people that are coming in. But apparently he'd been planning this for a couple months. He did reveal he's coming back to Vegas, so hopefully we'll get to see him again here soon.
Zach, if you listen, come on in.
Yeah.
Come get some games in or talk to us or something.
It looks like they're they're kind of splitting his position, it sounds like, into 2 other people and tapping somebody from inside the team, you were saying, Josh?
Well, it looks like they're bringing one person over from Asmodee Europe, I think. I'm not exactly sure where everybody sits right now, but they're promoting 2 people internally.
Josh Massey and Alex Watkins.
It sounds like Josh Massey is internal to North America.
So he's probably working with Zach.
Alex is coming over from Europe. I may have that backwards, but looking, we kind of talked about this on our Facebook page earlier this week, and folks they both come highly recommended. Folks had really nice things to say about both of them. So we'll see where OP goes from here. If you've been a fan of FFG competitive games, miniature games, Imperial Assault, Armada, X-Wing.
I thought you said competitive games. And then you said Imperial Assault.
Well, okay.
Okay.
Don't be like that.
Yeah, I got to be Josh for a
Anyways,
second.
you know that
it feels
OP's
good, I got to say.
Yeah, I know, right? OP's overgone kind of an overhaul in the last year or so.
We were talking about organized play.
Yeah, organized play.
Yeah.
They've gone away from the store championships, regional championships model. X-Wing has kind of gone to the max firepower qualifier kind of model between system opens and other regional and
I want to say this was
con-based events.
That was kind of Zach's baby when I was talking about was the flexible kit structure
right.
and things like that.
They've kind of taken the game night kits. They've started adding scenarios and things like that to kind of make the in-store experience a little different than just I show up, play 3 games of X-Wing, and leave. So, from the community, it seems to be kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Personally, coming from X-Wing, I liked the old structure. I liked that ladder of a store championship.
You liked a little bit more structure.
Yeah, maybe. I personally I miss. Because the store is your nexus of gaming, right? That's where we all met. We all met in this building.
Yeah,
we're
Funny
talking.
You should say that,
right? Why's that?
Oh, that was one of the topics that actually was prompted by this was the lack of support for like gaming clubs,
sure,
and stuff
right.
like that. It's like, what if you don't have a store that can do this, but you've got a club that has interested members?
Well, and there's
maybe that's something they'll
too.
be adjusting.
But I think a lot of that also has to do with location because here, we've got plenty of place, space to
You're
play.
Spoiled for choice.
You're
Right.
spoiled for choice, exactly. Now, having come from Germany when I lived over there, it's a lot more club driven.
Yeah, same thing when I was in England. Is I was a member of 3 different gaming clubs that met around. There was one gaming store within an hour, and everything else. Yeah, you were kind of, and there was no space to play there.
And the
Exactly.
common rejoinder is that FFG doesn't do a great job of supporting organized play overseas.
Yeah.
Probably
that's kind of
because of that
yeah.
reason, and hopefully getting somebody from Europe in there to give that perspective can change that a little bit. But kind of looping back to what I was going to say earlier, the game store is the nexus of what we do and our hobby and where everybody meets up. I mean, for lack of a better term, this is our clubhouse. So seeing things like store championships go away, I think that kind of kicked a big leg out from underneath organized play. Because personally, I've got plenty of time to play store championships and regional championships. In X-Wing last year, there were 4 store championships and a regional in Las Vegas alone. Right. That's 5 not premier, but big time events that pull people in from Arizona, California, Utah to play here. You don't have that anymore. I don't have the time or money to go to Gen Con and Adepticon and LVO and PAX Unplugged and all of these other places where they have all of these now max firepower tournaments where if I want to play a high level, no kidding tournament experience, now it requires a lot of effort. And it's more effort to me that you should have to make.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm more of a fan of the way they did
so
it before.
FFG, we want to hold all our big tournament qualifiers over at Josh's house, so he doesn't have to travel at all.
Yep, I've got space. I've got space for at least 3 tables.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
we'll make that happen.
I'll put out the cereal boxes and stuff for terrain. It'd be great.
So
I thought it looked better this year.
Right.
One question I have from somebody who doesn't have any kind of competitive gaming experience.
Sure.
Where does FFG's where do they fall OP wise with within the spectrum of like GW or Magic the Gathering? Like,
and you're asking the guy that has no experience in either of those realms.
Well, hello.
Well, that's
Matt
why.
could probably
that's why I bring
hello
it
there.
that.
They're pretty good.
Okay.
Overall, they're really good, actually.
Because GW have a very hands-off approach, and they've gotten better.
They have gotten a lot better. They've been sending out kits for a lot more stuff because there's been really good positive response for it. Some of it can be hit or miss. Some of it can be a little bit expensive to get a hold of, but overall, it's pretty good. Magic is the king, though. I mean, just the amount of promos and organization and all that goes into it. But I would say Fantasy Flight is catching up. And hopefully, with these new people coming on board, we'll see even more closing of the distance there.
Okay, now is it a lot harder to do with something like a war game as opposed to? I mean, it seems like Magic the Gathering is a little easier for a card game to do it.
Oh, sure, but I mean, look at the stuff that you get in the OP kits. It's mostly like tokens and alt art and full art bleeds and stuff like that, which translate across any kind of card game or anything like that. I don't think it's any different, really, other than, you'll get playmats or something for Magic, things like that.
One thing I'd like to add about what I liked about the older OP structure, FFG wouldn't release units or do a FAQ or anything to the game during those seasons, right? You had Store Championship season, and it ran from December to February, the end of February. So like a 3-month window, and during that window, there were no releases, no FAQs, nothing like that, right? So everybody played on the same playing field as Store champions. And then you would have a gap, and then there were some release and some facts and stuff like that. And then they do regionals on a kind of a 3-month gap, right?
Okay.
And then they would also do no releases or anything. Generally, they wouldn't have any releases in the middle of that time. So everybody that was a regional champion played on the same playing field, right? The way it's working now, it's, the guys that won the first championships, the first events in Legion, aren't playing necessarily on the same playing field as the game is now. If that makes sense?
It makes sense.
You see what I'm talking about?
It's hard to do that right now because the game is growing so much still. It's
Yeah,
still in the
we're
infancy.
we're in the first year still. I mean, as mind-blowing as that is to me still, but they were playing at a level playing field amongst their peers at the time that they qualified. So the game has changed definitely since then, and they'll have to adapt. So that might be more difficult for them. But overall, I think, it's still a fair representation.
Sure, and I feel like the guys who won those early tournaments are still going to be competitive in the current meta.
Right. But the thing, and I guess this is more of a point for going forward, where you've got a constantly shifting meta, right?
Yeah.
That's going to slow down a little bit,
Yeah.
But,
At
personal
least until
preference.
Clone Wars and droids.
Right,
and all that.
so you're going to have, the meta was stable for the entire Store Championship season. And then the meta was stable for the entire regional championship season, right? The way they've just farmed it out now to events that you've got, cons and things like that.
Now,
It's
but they've baked that into the rules for that kind of tournament organization. It has to have been released for 11 days to be legal for those
and that was the same thing
levels
for
of
X-Wing.
events. Okay, so
but
Kind of shifting gears a little bit here. One of the things looking at the LVO requirements.
I don't know how to work clutch. This is too much pressure.
we're done with this topic. Moving on.
Well, one thing that
Nice segue. That was smooth.
That was terrible.
It would have been, but no. One thing that looking at organized play in some of the competitive environments, there's a requirement for having painted models and
Mostly GW, yeah.
Mostly GW, yeah.
And some War Machine, and I'm sure there's some other games out there too.
Do you think that's something that we're going to see out of Legion? I mean, this is FFG's first foray into fully customizable.
I could see
modeling.
that happening, or at least they might make a format where that is required, like a Masters event or something, kind of like War Machine does. GW just straight up says if it's a GW event, it will be painted. So I could see that happening, but the first year, they are kind of finding their legs. I'm sure they're going to be polling people like LJ after they're doing the events and saying, hey, what do you think about this? And they'll like, I don't know. Or, hey, yeah, I think everybody had it painted anyway, so I don't see the difference in having it restricted or not.
Right, and, that kind of goes back to when we talked to Alex Davies and Luke Eddy. They said they wanted an accessible game.
Yeah,
like if you don't want to paint them, don't paint them. But that's also up to these tournament organizers.
Yeah,
I believe for LVO there is a painting requirement. I believe. I'm not sure, but
we'll have to go back.
We'll have to look that up. But it wouldn't surprise me
Didn't
if
really cross my radar.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if some tournament organizers start mandating painted models just because it looks better on the table. You know, part of one of the best things that's happened for Legion is getting 64 players at LVO.
Yeah.
You know, so you got all the AOS guys and the 40K guys and the War Machine guys are going to come check it out. And
well, if it's ever going to be any kind of official FFG tournament, it's going to go by the design doc for the tournament. So unless it says in there specifically, I don't think the TOs will have a whole lot of fiat in saying, "Yeah, painted's okay" or "not okay."
That's true. But I think it's a better marketing thing for the game. You know, 64 guys playing the game is a great marketing thing, but then when all these 40K guys come by and see unpainted models on the table, you know, okay, they're probably going to turn their nose up at the game.
Sure, I'll be the first to admit I'm not that way.
Yeah, and maybe that's not the kind of people we want in the game, and that's valid.
We're the best kind of people. What are you talking about?
No.
Oh, you're people now.
The snobs that would turn their nose up at people.
Oh, somebody is playing unpainted minis.
Yeah, I don't want to play. I was thinking about getting into Legion, but they let the normals with their unpainted models play. You know,
fully painted is for closers. Just saying.
So if I just dip it in like Plasti Dip, is that? Do you consider that painted?
But what if they actually had an outlet for people that didn't want to paint?
I mean,
Like
besides
FFG.
just outsourcing it to your friend sitting next to you.
Hey, buddy. When am I getting those Scout Troopers, by the way?
They're actually
how much you paying him again?
I don't know. Hugs.
Hugs
and rides to
Yeah.
the airport.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
I'm basically Uber for paint because he flies out like every other week.
No, but FFG has all these other games that have pre-painted models. Josh, do you think that this would be something that would this be something you'd be interested in?
I hate painting, so
It's because you choose the most difficult paint scheme. But
Be aware
yes.
that it's unlikely they'd come in the black and purple. kind of
Yeah.
paint scheme.
Well, I mean, that's and that's where for me I prefer having them unpainted just because I customize my army, so it's something nice to be able to have them unpainted. But I repainted everything that I had for X-Wing also into black and purple.
Did you do that like as soon as you popped out of the box?
Basically,
or did that
yeah.
Take,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
so
I won't.
it wasn't a gradual thing for you?
I won't put models that were unpainted, repainted, at least for X-Wing. I wouldn't put unrepainted models on the board.
Okay.
I would purposefully not play with newer ships because they weren't painted yet. Because I was just anal about it like that. But, that's me.
But I think the
For all of
question
the
we're
folks,
asking,
for all of the folks that are out there doing standard Imperial Stormtroopers, I think if I were doing that, there was nothing, and it's nothing to like what guys who do Imperial Guard in 40K have to go through with 30-man units, and you've got 8 of them out on the board.
30, those are rookie numbers.
You gotta bump those numbers up, right?
I would seriously suck start a pistol if I had to paint all of that. But there's nothing more defeating to me than looking at all of the unpainted stuff I have on my table right now, and it's like, God, I got to paint like 40 more minis. Ugh. I'm glad I'm not one of these guys that's doing an Imperial and a Rebel army because I'd never get it done.
Yeah.
I could see there definitely being a market there for people that just go, I'm just going to do the standard stuff. I'll just take pre-painted stuff. That's fine.
So
by
would
me.
you prefer to have the current unpainted, unassembled Stormtrooper box replaced with an assembled, pre-painted to, let's say, an X-Wing quality, which I think is fantastic for a mass-produced product? Would you like to see that, or just have an option available?
I think an option is best.
Okay. Would you be willing to pay probably double the price for the unit?
Yeah, I mean, because my time is valuable too.
That's fair.
For
For a lot of people, they may not have the budget and they got more time.
Sure. So but it's not just like painted, unpainted, and painted. Okay, double the cost. That's not a fair comparison necessarily, because you've also got to buy glue, paint, brushes, basing material, all of this other stuff that goes into, some people buy airbrushes. Good airbrush will set you back $150?
Yeah, I mean,
so how many?
and
so how many units of troops do you have to buy and not paint before you've now hit? What's your break-even point, right? With supplies and
given it a long enough graph, a lot of these are
Sure.
investment things. Like paint will last you quite a while if you take care of it. Obviously airbrush setup. As long as you're maintaining your equipment. There is a lot of initial costs that you just mentioned. And I guess it depends on how many units you figure you're going to be buying, and if you're happy with the quality of the paint or even the color concept.
Sure.
If you want your black and purple and gray guys.
And I think a lot of that has to do too with how much do you really enjoy that aspect of the hobby. Because I mean, it is more than just a war game. It is a hobby, and if that's a portion of it that you don't enjoy doing,
case in point, I brought in some of my old Beastmen army for Age of Sigmar the other day that I had painted up years ago for 8th edition, and he was like, "You can paint," John.
I was
like, "Yeah, I can paint. I just hate it. I do it when it's absolutely necessary." When you came along, you're
literally
like, "Oh, you commission
drowning
paint."
in your army of stormtroopers and I'm like,
Can
you
want are two totally
you've
different
been
things.
fully capable of painting this entire time.
No. I mean, I'm not any great. I'm okay at tabletop. That's about as badass as I get with painting. So when John can actually do a good job, and I'm really happy with the results, which he did my Imperial Guard or the Royal Guard, and they look fantastic. I can't wait to play them.
Also, just before we get too far in this, LVO requirements. You do not have to have any army painted or based in any way, shape, or form. So if you want to show up with your
just
gray
plastic,
and I could
right
have sworn I heard reports from Nova, like some guys that like literally just started playing like a week or two before, and they're like, "Hey, there's spots at Nova. Let me go get some more games in." Cool, great. Bring down the new people. I mean, we're going to be at capacity, so
You do have to have 2 barricades required per player, though. That is a requirement.
Yeah.
So make sure you have your
Barricada.
You looked with such expectation.
I did. I was like, I threw it up like John Stockton.
Dude, that was great.
Yeah. Down like Karl
And I
Malone.
came in like Karl Malone and just tomahawked it.
That's a basketball.
Basketball?
reference.
Yeah,
There you
okay.
go.
Sports ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and personally, I would like court troopers pre-painted, fine.
Okay.
Right? For the commanders and hero units, like painting Boba Fett was fun because it's freaking Boba Fett, right?
Yeah, one-off minis is
people are
always
going
a
to want
gas.
people, random stormtrooper number 50. I'm not nearly as enthused to paint as I am, Veers or Boba Fett or Vader.
Okay, I have a question for you though. How many Josh-style rants would they incur by, hey, here's stormtroopers, but they're pre-painted, instead of like, oh, bringing us new units or something? Why are you wasting time bringing us units we've already got when you could be, flushing out the factions more? This is such a waste.
Meh.
That's a trick question. There will always be a Josh rant.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, all right.
No, I don't think he'll
Hanging
be
a
any
lantern
because
on it now in case it ever gets revealed.
conceivably, producing the models is separate from painting the models, right?
Very much so. And actually,
you're not taking up any production time away from other units. It's just half of the stormtroopers we just printed go unpainted. Half of the stormtroopers we just printed go painted.
Okay.
You're not necessarily delaying other units necessarily.
Okay, so one of the fun things I got to sit on at the Gamma retailers thing and with Fantasy Flight, I think this was 2 years ago, but they were basically breaking down the whole production cycle for X-Wing and how it
so
basically
it's a trick
doubled
question.
in sales over the time. And the biggest problem, the number one problem they had, was finding factories that could turn out the high enough quality of painting for the ships for them to accept it. And that was why there was always production shortages in the early days, was getting these factories spun up. So maybe there is something to what you're saying, and that maybe they already have these factories, but then maybe they're having a split between, Legion and X-Wing and all these Armada and all these other.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the
Mm-hmm.
X-Wing ships, were they hand painted? Or was it a paint? Because it looks.
I don't recall
I don't
if
know
they
if
said.
they're machine painted or not, but and there's going to be a middle ground here. You're talking painted to X-Wing standard. I don't know how necessarily that translates to a Legion miniature type standard.
And that's
because
assuming that
a
those
ship,
sculpts will.
a ship is generally a lot of flat surfaces. Right,
Okay.
kind of a lot easier to paint and shade and things like that. You'll have some little greebly bits that are raised, but generally you look at a TIE fighter, It's a ball with 2 slab sides attached to it. It's not that hard to paint. But you start talking about the stormtroopers where you're trying to get inside cracks and nooks and crannies.
Thank you, because
like
going back to those 40K snobs, if you show up with like a WizKids style, hero clicks or the old force clicks thing, looking like that,
the old
garbage,
Wizards of the Coast
oh
game.
Man, I'd rather see unpainted stuff.
Well,
there's a sweet spot.
3-color minimum.
Even if it's like leaking everywhere and it's just like blobs where their eyes are and things like that. I don't know if you recall how bad those were.
Well, I showed you some of the Wizards of the Coasts.
Oh yeah, I mean,
they
there's
weren't
some
bad.
There's some bad examples out there. There's some good ones. I mean, I think if you're in the hobby portion of it, everyone starts somewhere, and I'm not going to belittle someone for trying.
No. I'm saying these store-bought examples of these are my pre-painted stormtroopers I just bought off the shelf, and they look like they're like these HeroClix quality paints.
Oh.
But if you're buying that kind of thing, eschewing the option to paint them yourself, you don't care.
And I think that would be damaging to the game as a whole, though, as having that representative of the models we're playing with.
I mean, HeroClix is plenty popular.
I mean,
Yeah,
remember all the
there's
hate that
plenty
we
of
were
people.
giving the bad paint jobs for like Han Solo back in the day?
What do you mean we?
Oh, okay, Josh.
Josh.
Well, I think everybody was a little bit.
Don't you point your
bad
finger
paint
at me
job.
like that?
If we go back and listen to the Han Solo episode.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, that's not. They need a different painter. That was you,
I think
bro.
I said it wasn't
Yeah, it was a
showcased.
collective.
Yeah.
I was
Nobody
much more
took
nuanced
up.
with it.
Oh,
okay.
nuanced.
I said that it wasn't showcase quality.
Depends
but
on what your definition of is.
So Josh
Okay.
didn't like it, and John had some notes.
yeah.
And we'll let it go with that. But the fact that just the painting on these models can really change the way you feel about them. I mean,
Sure,
once
yeah.
you got them in hand, we were like, oh, this isn't so bad. I can work with this.
But it also depends on your frame of reference, right? If you're saying unpainted models and, that immediately puts you into a mindset of 40K War Machine,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Hobby miniature games,
So
yeah.
then to come out with that, of course you're going to get panned because there's a million people out there that could do better. I'm not
Yeah.
one of them, but there's plenty of people out there, But if you're saying, okay, we're going to do pre-painted miniatures, there's a certain expectation, right? It's machine painted. It's obviously not going to be as good. If you had told me that Han Solo was machine painted, I'd been like, okay, cool.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely playable.
So there's
Yeah.
a level of expectation there for unpainted hobby miniatures, or hey, I'll pay a premium just so I can put them on the table, without having to go through all of the rigmarole of painting them myself. So,
Okay, so would you pay $50 for a unit of stormtroopers painted to at least like a tabletop quality?
maybe, sure. I mean, it depends. I
Okay.
mean, I can't
on
say
what?
that sight unseen.
Okay.
It depends on what you're getting for the value. If they're trash painted, no, I wouldn't pay $50 per. If they looked good, yeah, maybe. Or if I had a friend or somebody else that I was trying to get into playing Rebels, and they were already pre-painted and they weren't interested in doing the hobby stuff, yeah, I would recommend, look, it's $50 per. Okay, it's a bit of a higher cost of entry for the core units, but, you're going to save time and money on supplies, and,
There is something
you're not
to
going to
that.
paint it any better than that, so you might as
Yeah.
well just save yourself the
And I
time
talk to
and
people
money.
all the time.
So-
There's an intimidation factor if you've never
Absolutely
painted before.
there is.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the problem with offering people the option.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, coming from somebody who actually enjoys the painting portion, I don't begrudge somebody who doesn't. If they would rather, pay the extra money to put painted models on the table.
But they are
I think it's fine.
diverting production time to their painted model line and not barricaded to Electric Boogaloo.
Well, then they can just go and cancel Rune Wars.
Ah!
All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick break. Coming up, we're gonna take a look at what some of these numbers look like from Tabletop Simulator post fac.
You're listening to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tatooine Network, recorded on location at Power 9 Games. Whether you're looking for the latest releases from Legion, X-Wing, 40K, Magic, or any of our other extensive inventory of board and card games, head to power9games.com and use coupon code OUTRIDER10 to get 10% off your order. Plus, shipping is free on orders over $100. Now, back to the Outriders.
Welcome back, Outriders. John, Josh, and Matt. So,
I feel welcomed back.
okay,
Yay.
Thank you.
Well, that's good.
Like a warm embrace.
And you're actually here in person now, thankfully.
Yes,
No more astral projection?
I thought that was you. I was outriding in my heart.
Okay. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the changes post-fac.
Errata.
Yeah, the errata. Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay.
Old GW.
Words
habits die
matter.
hard.
Yeah.
So the errata changed a few things, including key positions, and
Boy, did it.
I guess our best guinea pig for seeing how some of these things play out is our good friends over at Tabletop Simulator,
Invader League,
yeah. So
which they just wrapped up recently. So
what did the numbers look like? How did the game change after the errata came out?
And do you know if they implemented them like immediately?
Invader League wrapped up prior to the
errata coming out. Okay.
So we're looking at two different sets of data here.
Okay.
The pre-errata data is coming from Invader League, and the post-errata data is coming from Yavin Base,
Okay.
which is also running a tabletop simulator group league type thing.
Oh, okay.
So we're getting these numbers from Kyle Dornbos from Notorious Scoundrels podcast. Thank you. But what we saw in Tabletop Simulator in Invader League was, of course, everybody taking really big bids, and that's where key positions has kind of changed the meta here a little bit, because you saw people taking really deep bids, hoping that they would get to be blue player in key positions, because under the pre-errata key positions, blue player was essentially an auto win.
We're talking bids so big they were mistaken for a small moon.
Yes, that's no moon. That's a Legion bid.
That's a blue player bid.
Yeah.
If ever I seen one.
So looking at the range of bids and key positions from Invader League, most of them were clumped at the low end of 10 points at the low end, and then you had kind of a spike up at 12, 13, 14, and then you had a whole big gap or a whole big bunch at 17. So between 10 and 20 points is where the vast majority of the bids landed.
And that's a fair amount of upgrades.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And in all of those games, the blue player won 100% of the time. So, if you could take that 17-point bid and get blue player in key positions, you were essentially guaranteeing yourself a victory. Now,
as long as you didn't completely throw the game away.
yeah. You run all your units off the table like a dummy.
Take that, Data.
Right. I mean, the odds of you getting key positions, I mean, you have to basically have it land on that third card in order
to guarantee it, sure. Or, the person you were playing just was like, come at me, bro.
Yeah.
And left it
attention,
there, trying to, get
key
limited
position.
Trying to get limited visibility so they could get up and rush you or whatever.
Sure.
But now looking at the Yavin base data, they've played 47 games so far in key positions, which is a fair amount of games.
It's a good sample size.
32 of those games have had a bid of 2 points or less.
Woo!
Yeah.
And I feel like that's probably not people strategically doing it. That's just like, I don't have another upgrade that can fill 2
Yeah,
points.
I can't take these grappling hooks.
Well,
for 2
I mean,
points. Yeah.
people are building lists that are from 898 to not 898, but 798 to 800 points.
Yeah.
So what that's telling you is that people aren't
valuing
undercosting themselves. They're going right up to 800 points because now the way that key positions plays, it's just not that important to have a bid.
Yeah.
Because it's like we said, it's kind of an amalgamation of key positions or not key positions, but intercepted transmissions and supplies.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that reflects better on the game.
I think
honestly.
it does too.
Yeah.
It rewards tactical thinking, not, I got lucky with where the cards fell.
And I'm not going to take grenades because I want to try and
Right. Yeah, that too.
get one over on this one scenario.
So good job, FFG. Thank you for fixing key positions.
So far, so good.
What took you so long? Because I have to complain about something.
Okay, all right, that's great.
No,
How
but it's
quickly-
good.
yeah,
It's good that they listen to the fan base and they listen to the players and obviously took a look at something, because obviously in playtesting it didn't seem broken. Otherwise they wouldn't have shipped it this way.
Yeah.
And they did a couple of erratas, or I think they did one errata previous to this one that changed it. So, maybe they felt they didn't have enough data to overrule what their playtesting said, but,
And this has been
they got it right eventually, which is the important part.
This has kind of been a recurring theme because this is more of a role that companies are taking, and they're taking a more proactive approach to balancing their rules live out in the field, as opposed to like in the days when we were growing up, me and John playing GW games, where like, cool, this is totally imbalanced, suck it up till the next rule edition, maybe a couple years down the line.
What do you mean back in the days?
Back in the day,
because I'm pretty sure
5th
40K still runs that way.
But they're coming out with more rules, erratas, and things like that live in the middle of edition.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting chapter approved.
Yeah,
within
chapter
the
approved is
edition.
coming out
Yeah.
this weekend.
True,
so.
but there's been numerous times where
It
they'll
may
drop
not be
they'll drop a
perfect,
codex and
but-
then all of a sudden they realize 2 weeks later, here's a FAQ because we didn't know what we were doing when we made this, or we printed it too early,
or we didn't consider this interaction.
Yeah,
or
so
something slipped by in beta.
Yeah, not to get too far in the weeds with the GW stuff,
Yeah.
but I mean, it is something that we still see issues with in other games, and I'm glad to see that FFG is getting it right with this.
Yeah. And War Machine definitely has a big part of this with their CID initiatives and things like that. They try to do small corrections to try and fine-tune it before, swinging it one way or the other. And when you've got deep model lines like 40K and War Machine, where it's like, okay, well, my list is now garbage, I'm going to buy a new army. And then what if it swings back, a month or two later? And it's like, well, I just wasted all this time and money. What's going on? So incremental changes, I think, is what they were doing here, and it seems like they dialed in really well.
Yeah, they got it right. So
Yeah.
Awesome, and coming from Josh, that's the highest
I feel
compliment.
so warm and fuzzy
Right.
right now. Thanks, buddy. Oh, he is so nonplussed right now. Wow.
chagrined, I think.
Well, now that we're talking about other contributors to the community who are basically providing us content, our good friend Nick Freeman.
Who?
Nick Freeman, the
Who?
BFF of the show.
I don't know. I've never heard
Fiancé
this
of the
name
show?
before.
Are you denying him 3 times, Peter?
Yes.
Oh, enjoy your 20 pieces of silver.
30.
Is it 30?
30.
Oh.
Somebody didn't pay attention in Sunday school.
I don't know. I got all my religious studies from Harry Dresden, so.
At least you didn't say L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh,
Man,
I got the beta waves or whatever coming over from,
Thadans.
from Xanadu.
Come on, man. From Xenu. What is wrong with you?
I'm sorry. Are you going to get your lawyer
Get
sixth
your
on me
fringe
now?
religions correct.
One created Scientology, the other was a movie starring Olivia Newton-John. Whatever.
I'll let you decide which is which.
Either way,
Lately.
our good friend Nick Freeman put out
Who?
on his podcast Impact X. He put out an article about blocking, and
Oh, yeah.
for somebody who doesn't have a lot of experience so far playing with melee units, other than his trusty Luke Skywalker,
At least till next week.
I've been looking heavily into doing a melee-based Wookiee list, not because of strategic reasons, but because I just am a fanboy of Wookiees, and
You are.
I think this is the
Wookiee.
first time we've heard this.
Yeah.
Why are you jumping on the bandwagon all of a sudden?
I know, right?
What's going on?
So, reading his article, it brought up a lot of good points. Some of the challenges that go into melee. It's not as easy as just running in there and tearing people's arms off. There's a lot of nuance that goes into it. Now, you guys have both played a couple games with, various
IRG.
melee units,
Yeah.
IRG.
Vader.
What are some of the challenges that you've seen so far?
Speed 1 moves with Vader, and you can't melee until like turn 6
Okay, that sounds like a pretty severe
or 5
restriction.
because you got to truck his ass all the way up the board till you can punch somebody.
But with IRG, I mean, they're moving their range to.
Yeah, they've got charge and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah, I mean, the hardest part is just getting there, right? because you're not necessarily charging a static point. You're moving your units, and then you're trying to intercept other units that are moving, unless they're just dug into cover or something like that. So
maybe you don't get lucky like I did, and Luke was charging across the field as I was charging towards him, and it was fantastic. And we met in the middle, and then Palpatine shocked him to death anyway. So,
but I mean, in that scenario, you've got somebody who's willing to engage you.
Yeah.
What
if they're trying to play cagey
is,
with you, that's a completely different ballgame.
But what concerns me the most is when you see people who are setting up snipers on rooftops, and according to the rules, but according to what Nick Freeman laid out in Impact X, having your base just a millimeter off the edge basically creates a illegal move. So if you're going to space guys out on a second level ledge and prevent anyone from getting base-to-base contact, that's going to create some real big issues for people who run melee heavy lists.
Right. Well, I mean, and if you've got a melee heavy list and you're getting DLT'd to death as you try and get into range, basically turns into Poland 1939, where you've got the German army and you've got the Polish army on horseback charging at tanks. It doesn't work very well.
Well, I mean, yeah.
We're not faulting their bravery.
No,
the
very
disparity
brave. Yeah.
In technology levels.
Well, I guess then as the modern equivalent, Star Wars equivalent of the Polish Hussar cavalry, I mean, the Wookiees are going to have some issues if they don't have cover and things like that. But how does one who wants to run a melee heavy list mitigate some of those issues with movement?
Just get behind cover. Hope there's enough cover that you can double move from cover to cover. But if you're double moving from cover to cover without the benefit of something like new ways to motivate them or pull the strings, you're basically passing up attacks if you have something at range 2 to be able to get into a position to melee a round or two later.
Yeah, and don't get tunnel vision on the melee also. The IRGs have amazing pistols on them too, and I used them to good effect last time I played them. So they were shooting the crap out of people they couldn't quite get into melee with.
See, but one challenge I think with Legion as compared to games like 40K or AOS is in 40K, I can run my Space Wolves up at you, I can shoot at you, and I can still charge you, and I'm not losing an action because of it.
Okay.
But say I've got a unit of Wookiees and I'm moving or shooting or charging you, I mean, I can't do all three.
Well, you can shoot at somebody, do a range 2 move, and charge them into base-to-base contact. You can't attack after that.
Sure, yeah.
But
you can lock them up, though.
You can shoot at them, and then if there's one or two guys left, prevent your guys from being shot at by then charging them into base-to-base contact and engaging them. And now you're engaged, and people can't shoot you. So you can do that.
Sure, but it's not the same. I'm still foregoing my attack.
Your melee attack.
My melee attack in lieu of doing the shooting attack.
Well, then double move into melee. I mean,
by and large, though, the
position,
melee attack is a much more favorable attack to make.
Well, sure.
For
melee
Wookiees,
designed units.
Yeah.
No,
but I'm saying like that's not exactly the same as being able to move, shoot, charge, attack, as some people might be used to.
That's a different game, man.
Yeah.
We go play 40K.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Don't you put that evil on me. And that's not out of like don't tempt me. It's like no, literally, I do not want to.
But back to the article that you were referencing from Nick, I think melee units might have a difficult time against people that are prepared for them. That is aware of their capabilities, where they can place their units optimally to receive those charges, or at least make it difficult for them to get those charges. One of my favorite diagrams I showed that he put in the blog was how he was positioning his guys behind a barricade, and he was doing it in such a way that if they wanted to come at them, they would be getting that range 1 movement, absent, the hostile weather gear or anything like that, that would then short their move and be unable to complete their charge. I think things like that are that next level kind of play, that if you see what's coming against you and you can think about what your units are going to be doing and how they can react to that. I mean, you were talking about having, perpetually falling back stormtroopers with DLTs, just kind of, putting a point or two out every round. That's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe you're chasing them off objectives at that point. And,
and that's something that I think that a lot of players that come from a game like 40K, where it's just you get 12 inches of movement or 6 inches of movement, and you can go anywhere within that 6 inches, right?
Right.
You don't have to move along a template,
Right.
Because moving along that template causes no-go zones. Okay, the template is, I don't know how long a range 2 template is, 5 inches, something like that, because it's a little bit shorter than the range 1 movement, or the range 1 ruler,
I have
which
it on
is
good
6
authority.
inches.
It's a good 9 to 10 inches.
Just like that.
Yeah, 9 to 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
But by having the bend in the middle, it's not I've got 5 inches no matter where I go. If I've got to go around an obstacle,
You gotta path
I can
around
only
it, yeah.
go maybe 3.5 inches forward, depending on how I've got to maneuver around that. I think that's where somebody who comes from an X-wing background, it's a lot easier to get your head around because you're used to maneuvering along a template. And then blocking somebody or preventing movement makes it a lot easier because you can see, okay, I'm used to templates and here, there, and I'm going to end there, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to, well, I'll just measure out my 6 inches and then I'll go here, I guess. And now we're in a charge. Now I'm engaged with you.
Right. And this is a point you brought up earlier too, is you can use active blocking to foil
Absolutely.
charge attacks.
Yeah, I've done it with bikes.
Yeah,
a lot.
You did.
If you can use bikes, you get 3 with the compulsory. You get 3 speed, 3 moves. You can cover a lot of ground, and you can if you can drop those bikes. Save your activation on them till the end. Drop that bike right into a path of a unit that hey, I've got to go here to be able to score this objective. Well, my bikes are there now. Now you can't. They're great for that. And that's something that coming from X-wing is kind of second nature. Using a low pilot skill ship to block a predicted move is a powerful tool in that game.
That's something I didn't really ever get to when I was playing X-wing and still dabble with from time to time, and I still don't get it now. So I'm not getting any better.
No, that's fine. But if blocking was a thing that you were used to doing in X-wing,
sure.
To kind of deny your opponent an area and actions and things, all of the consequences of bumping in that game, it's easy to do in Legion as well because you're used to kind of that movement template kinesthetic aspect, right?
John, let me get your take.
What's up?
So Wookiees are coming out. You're excited.
Yeah.
What colors are you going to paint them?
I mean, more than likely what they are in the movies, various shades of brown. Some
I know
black.
a really good way to get them
Probably
brown.
going to be...
Really quick and easy way.
Spray painting them?
Take them and shove them straight up.
Oh, the painting tray table. And then giving
exactly.
them light coats of their primer.
Oh, okay. right in your bucket of Army Painter Strong
nice
Tone.
and texture. That's not typhus corrosion they're painted in.
Oh, man.
If that's the case, you may want to see a GI specialist.
Good
Why?
news, they're a suppository.
Ewok calf. Yep.
Little known fact: the actual Wookiee language, Sherwook, is based on the sound of forcefully removing a Wookiee miniature from.
The shark has been jumped.
Getting a little blue now.
I really hope that our friend who was driving through the drive-through getting fast food was driving through during that exact conversation. I think we're timing this out.
We should be
just perfectly. We're like 45 minutes into our podcast. That guy's gonna be driving through the drive-through at that exact moment, and we're gonna drop something just completely inappropriate when he's driving through.
It happened. You did it to me again, Outriders.
Now I have to go to the other McDonald's across town. Great.
Their McFlurry machine's never working.
This message brought to you by Dick's.
Hamburgers, not sporting goods.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, unless both of them want to sponsor us, that's fine.
Yeah, that'd be good too.
Hey.
Okay.
Any final thoughts on melee units and things? good?
They're good.
Recovered? Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm
They're
still going
great.
to be playing them a lot.
No, like the one adjustment that I made to my list after kind of going through that and realizing how inadequate my charging movement skills are probably going to be. I think I'm going to put
Just push it
some
forward, man.
ATRTs with flamethrowers
Oh.
with my Wookiees, and what I'm going to use them for is twofold. First, mobile light cover,
Yeah.
because I can march the Wookiees right behind them, and second of all, if I can't get into base to base with you because you're shrewd with your movement, I'm just gonna shoot you with a flamethrower.
Yeah, I could definitely see that kind of catch-22 choice of, do I shoot the Wookiees and soften them up, or do I let the flamethrower get close enough to do his thing?
Because I'm just gonna make it so every unit that I have is gonna be something that's gonna be running right up your face, and you can shoot the
I think
Wookiees
that'd
or
actually be
you
a
can
pretty
shoot
good
the
list, man.
ATRTs, but you do move your movement shenanigans to get just out of range of the Wookiee charge, but you might not get out of range of the flamethrower. So.
Yeah.
Which I know I'm
that
showing
sounds pretty fun.
I'm showing my poker hand. And I
Sounds like a recipe for bikes.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's true.
I mean,
and
that's your answer to everything, though. He's
Bikes is always my answer for everything.
one-trick pony.
Ugh.
Bikes are good, man.
Bikes are
They're
good.
good.
Bikes are fine.
Josh, what do you got?
I'm going to go play a game.
All right,
Let's wrap
cool.
this up.
Oh, speaking of games, our long sabbatical from doing Friday night streams at the Frontier Gaming channel here at the store. We're going to be doing Legion back-to-back. So I've got a standard 800-point game that I'm going to be playing with my buddy Jeff tomorrow. So very excited that. We're going to be trying LVO lists. And then the following Friday, I've got John enlisted, and we're going to do some sort of Wookiee mayhem, because Wookiees are coming out next week. We're going to be playing some stuff.
Wookiee on Wookiee
related.
action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
pumped.
yeah, Frontier Gaming Channel, and that's on Twitch. So yeah, hit a follow on there. Even if we're offline, you'll get a notification when we go live, because it should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this.
I'm stoked for it.
Yeah.
Just one real quick thing. The whole pre-painted minis thing.
Oh,
shout out to Ryan Farmer at Minox Squadron. That's kind of his that whole point of
was that his
discussion
thing?
was kind of
Okay.
his idea. We were chatting offline because he kind of he bought into Legion at first, and now he's waiting for the clones thing. But he's
yeah.
like
I think a lot of people
he
are.
just asked the general question, like, have you guys seen the painting requirement? Pull away, it cost you people that might want to play but don't want to paint. So that whole thing came out of a discussion with him. So
Well, there
thanks,
you go.
Minox.
The one segment I thought in this show that was originally produced was actually also farmed out from another source.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah, there's nothing new under the sun anyway.
Nope.
All right, Outriders. See you next week.
You've been listening to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tatooine Network.
Only now, at the end, do you understand?
For more from the Outriders, make sure you like us on Twitter at Legion Outriders, subscribe to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Legion Outriders, and make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.